Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Career Coaching with Jessness. I am Jessica here, and I've got an episode for you today. If you're curious about how can you, me, us, as just plain old humans, compete with AI? And it's probably a topic that you've read a little bit about in terms of what's going to happen in the future and how AI is going to shape different careers and jobs and roles and whatever. But I was thinking about this as I was driving the other day, and it just dawned on me. It just kind of downloaded. And I wanted to share with you why I'm not worried at all about AI replacing me, and why you shouldn't be either, and how we can compete with AI and the things that AI will never be able to do. And so I want to give you some examples and some of my own personal perspective. And also, I think you'll find that it's logical and very relatable as well, because I mean, that is my MO, right? I like relatable stuff. I like down to earth, practical information. I like step by steps, but I also like bridging it to deeper meanings and self discovery and what it means to be human. So I like pairing the logic and also the spirituality or the deeper part of life as well, some of the philosophy behind it. So just call me, your yin and yang gal all in one. So maybe it's a slightly different approach to career perspective or job hunting that you haven't seen before, but by all means, I'm glad you're here. So, all right. So sure. Let's just kind of tease this out a little bit. So how can I, as a plain old human, compete with a computer that can think up things in seconds, milliseconds, and can disseminate large amounts of data and have reading comprehensive of a book in 5 minutes, yada, yada. We know what AI does. I'm no AI expert by any means from a technical standpoint, but I do use it a lot. And I like exploring the ways in which it'll evolve and how it'll also impact the way that I approach my life, both professionally and personally. And so I've always got that kind of humming in the back of my mind of, okay, I'm doing this thing. Here's the what, here's how it's kind of playing out tactically. But then what's the underlying impact of my thought process, my emotions, like my personal way of dealing with things. And so I'm always looking for what are the patterns and what are the through lines and all of that. And so some of the stuff that came to mind as I was driving, and seriously, this topic just kind of downloaded into my brain and I had to write it down as it normally does when I'm driving. But AI will never be able to compete with us humans in the realm of consistency, intentionality, action, human touch, aka adding an emotional description or meaning to it, or personal story and making meaning out of those personal stories or the suggestions that it provides us. Okay? It will never be able to compete in those areas because data, for the sake of data, isn't worth anything. Data is just data. It needs to mean something, and that is where we come into play, creating that understanding of the emotion behind it, the why. It's what we do with the data and how we make it our own is where the true value really comes into play. And I guarantee if you're anything like me and you've used AI for a while now, you probably have, I would bet money on this, you probably have a few chats, many, many chats full of ideas, action items, new ways of thinking about something, models, playbooks, suggestions. You've probably got advice, like maybe you're using it like a therapist, right? And so you've got loads and loads of information, lots and lots of chats full of this stuff. But so what? So now what? Right? So what? What are you going to do with it now? So here's an example. So podcasting. Anyone can do it. literally anyone. And I want to share just like a fun fact, mini side story on this too, because this podcast, if you're new to this podcast, you may not know that this pod was created back before many of the podcasts created today, back in 2016. When I was a recruiter at a company that sold a SaaS software product for sales dudes. And it was when I started just recording them in my car, literally on my way home. I wish I probably still have some of those initial episodes, but the sound was horrible. I would record it just on a voice note and upload it later to SoundCloud, and it really took off. Honestly, it was just me, same style as now, just me kind of riffing into the mic, letting you know kind of my perspective and giving tactical and strategic approaches to things, given the step by step, which is kind of a no nonsense kind of vibe, like which is my blood type. And so over time, I had like 140 episodes. Since then, the reason you don't see those episodes down is because 2016 job world and today is very different. And some of the episodes, the advice and just advice overall and career trends and workplace norms and different things just, was getting stagnant. And I didn't feel 100% in alignment with some of the things that I was sharing, so I removed them, which is why you don't see those today. But the podcast really, the title and the hosting of it all sat on here for a bit, and there was only one or two podcast episodes available, like the one that I recorded with my sorority, Sigma Kappa, on interview prep is one that's still out there that has hundreds of thousands of views to it. But anyway, it sat there for a bit. Then I was inspired earlier this year after my second book was published in July of 2024. And I came out of the podcast, cave, and I recorded 4 episodes on seasons of change and how I've experienced the seasons of my life and how it relates to actually nature's seasons and how our lives, the seasons of our life, can mirror nature's seasons so seamlessly. And I was inspired to record that because there was a lot that happened between 2020 and now. Since my dad's passing, I was in a really bad toxic romantic relationship, and those episodes are really beautiful. So if that piques your interest, check them out. But back to this podcast, example. Anyone can do it. If I could do it in my car, driving home on my commute home from San Jose to Pleasanton with just my headphone jack and a voice note, anyone can do it. But now it's not so much just of the tech and the setup and the sound quality and all of that, or just buying the material. It's the topics, right? So anyone could utilize AI and throw in, hey, list out 100 potential episode topics that I can use in the category of blank. And it can be anything like beauty, racehorsing, improv, public speaking, how to walk. I don't know, anything. You get the idea, right? So there's no shortage of ideas today. But a list is just a list, right? Data is just data unless we put some life, put some meaning, some story, some richness behind it. Unless we know the reason behind sharing a potential topic, it's just going to sit there. And this is where I see really a partnership between the bot world, the AI world, and us as humans come into play. The human is the one, you and me are the ones that need to bring the data, the list of 100 potential topics, to life. So without that, it just sits there, right? A list of a ton of ideas, it's got potential, and sure, it can become a podcast, but without any action, it'll just sit there. Without the consistency of getting up and recording, it's nothing. There is no value. This episode is brought to you by my Brain Dates, one-on-one conversations where we figure out your next move together on a variety of topics. You can learn more on my website, justnessrequired.com, under the Work With Me tab. Unless you flush out the topics into meaningful, relatable things to your life, add story, personal examples. You get the idea, right? It's nothing. Unless you go out and find the guests on the topics to invite them and you're persistent until you actually land those guests, it's nothing. So the consistency of taking action, the intentionality and the why behind it, the adding personal story and making meaning out of the list of suggestions and making meaning out of the data it just sits there. There's one thing that I truly, my addictive side of my personality comes through with using AI and just the speed in which we can get information. God, it just feels so good, right? Like it feels good to be able to find something out so fast, to just at our fingertips, boom, at the speed of light, having the answer. And I love that, truly, and having access to it instantly. But having a million answers and a million different chats on potential action items or ideas doesn't do you any good. And it's kind of like when we buy a ton of self-help books and then they just rot on your shelf. So it's like, so what? You have 10 Buddhist books on the Zen way. Does that make you any more Zen? Does it make you any more intentional or present? No, you actually have to read them, right? And then what? Then you need to read them and integrate them and put that learning into action and find out how it fits and relates to your life, trying things on, making it your own. In facilitation, we have this saying, and I'm a leadership facilitator, is when I get content to facilitate, to present, and I'm in a training setting, I need to internalize the message. I need to digest what it is I'm saying and add the me to it. Content, again, for the sake of content, is just content. It doesn't have that meaning. It doesn't have that landing point. It doesn't make it personal or intentional. And those are the things that are really going to land. So that's my take. That is my take on how we can, quote, compete with AI. Here are some things to remember as you walk away. AI can give us options, not answers. Okay? And I want you to think of AI as almost like your junior teammate. It's not the boss. Just because it says this is a suggestion or this is the right way to do it, it doesn't mean that that's Bible. That's the one way to do it. Think of it as a junior teammate. It's giving you some insight. You're the boss. You're the leader. You get to decide and filter what's going to stick, what is trash, what is going to help inspire me to then come up with the answer. Okay? Like you're the creative director and the AI bot is the production team. You get to set the tone, the vision, and the direction. And that's how you're going to find alignment with what you're researching. And that's what's going to really feel good when you find that alignment, you put that work out versus just copying and pasting what some bot came up with, right? That's not going to make you feel like you're expressing yourself from an authentic standpoint because you're not, okay? You don't want to leave yourself out of the equation. One of the things too is that, your curiosity is really your competitive advantage here. AI can't wonder. AI doesn't drive, around and have a download and think, let me flush that out more. Let me write down that. Like this episode came from just me driving along and thinking, and it just dawned on me. And I'm like, let me think about that more. And it got me wondering, and it got me curious about what are the ways that I will always have a leg up on AI. Like what are those human element functions? Another thing too, so things to remember, speed does not equal wisdom. Okay, so yes, it feels so good to get that long list of ideas, but we still need to filter and find what is tasteful for us and use our judgments. Ultimately, we've got to have discernment, right? Knowing when something feels right and when something does not, and then trusting that. All right. And we are the ultimate meaning gatherers. Meaning is something only humans make. So we provide the why, we give that intentionality. The AI can provide the what. We filter that, have discernment, and then we apply, okay, what does this truly mean for me? So sure, AI can do a lot. You can ask it anything. You can get an influx of info in a matter of seconds, but remember to not leave yourself out of the equation and keeping that meaning, that consistency, intentionality, and that forward moving action, the human touch, adding that emotionality and feeling behind things. It's not about outsourcing your brain. It's just about partnering with the machine. All right, I'm curious what came up for you. Let me know. Reach out to me via email or on Instagram. All the info's in the show notes. And looking forward to hearing what you think. Are there additional things that we can add to this list of how we can, quote unquote, compete with AI? So best of luck, and I'll see you on a future episode.